It was a cloudless, windy day when Jesus, Val, and Andrew made their way back into the desert. Kate had elected not to join them, knowing how dangerous the search would be, but Andrew understood. "I will come back," he said with determination. Kate had grown up hearing the legend, having lived in Puerto Peñasco since she was young, but somehow knew with the conviction of his words that they would return safe. The light grains of sand whipped about the trio's ankles as they made progress. At some point, they halted in Jesus' side. Gravely, he said,
"Ya hemos ido demasiado lejos para regresar. Ahora estamos de esta fuerza del mal que hace echar en el desierto."
We have already gone too far to turn back. Now we are at the mercy of this force of evil that lurks in the desert.
Val translated for him, and Andrew hardened his gaze, ready to press on. "I don't care. If there's any hope of finding my sister out there, I will move heaven and earth to find her."
A mí no importa. Si alguna esperanza de encontrar a mi hermana ahí fuera, moveré el cielo y la tierra para encontrarla.
As Andrew walked away, Val translated and Jesus shook his head. By the time they reached the small mountain range that appeared distantly from Peñasco itself, they could no longer see the town. The sun was beating down harshly, darkening their skin. Jesus raised his hand to signal him to stop.
"Ahí está,"
he said, pointing to a dark spot a ways up the mountain. They just stood and stared, no need for translation. By the time they reached the spot, the sun had begun to set, casting long shadows and causing the mouth of the cave to appear even more ominous than it already was.
"Si está en alguna parte, aquí está,"
said Jesus, pointing inside the cave.
If she's anywhere out here, she's in there.
Andrew stepped forward a few paces, and then turned around, beckoning. "Coming?" he asked, and Val nodded, beginning to advance, but Jesus grabbed her hand, holding her back.
"No puedo dejarte entrar. Es demasiado peligroso."
No, I cannot let you go in there. It's far too dangerous.
Jesus maintained a firm grip on her arm.
But I want to help him. And besides, Jean was my friend. I want to make sure, if Andrew finds her, that she's safe.
"Sé que era tu amiga, pero esto es algo que Andrew debe hacer solo. Si oye a más de una persona, allí puede llevarnos a todos y no quiero que eso suceda."
I know she was your friend, but this is something that Andrew must do alone. If it hears more than one person in there, it may take all of us, and I don't want that to happen.
The afternoon previous was spent explaining the legend. Apparently when the town was first founded, there was a young woman who lived there that everyone thought to be a witch, for at the time, she was considered to not be normal. She was withdrawn, spoke of strange things, and other such stuff. In reality, she was just an odd soul, who wanted nothing more than just to be friends with just one person. Anyone who spoke with her for longer periods of time found her to be an amazing person, but most people at the time had no patience for her ramblings, and so one day, the collective townspeople rushed her, driving her out of her home and into the desert, vowing to bring death on her if she ever returned. The woman, now referred to as ella que no tiene amigos, wandered the desert for days until she came across the cave in the mountains. Anyone who gets lost wandering the desert is usually found by the woman and offered shelter. The person, who is usually gone for days without food, water, or shelter, almost always accepts the offer, and those who reject the offer are still taken back to the cave, and the rejectors usually meet with some grim, unknown fate. Ella que no tiene amigos has many friends now, but is still viewed as somewhat of an evil being, for in her quest to find friends, she drags many innocent souls to their timeless doom. That's the other thing. Once you are in the cave, time virtually ceases, slowing to a rate that each day spent in the cave is equivalent to 1/500th of a day in normal time. A few people have managed to escape and find their way back to Peñasco, looking as if they haven't aged a bit, though many years may have passed. It was now dark, and Jesus and Val sat outside the cave, talking quietly. Val suggested that they should get some sleep, and if Andrew ever returned, they would be right there if he should emerge. Val and Jesus waited for 2 long days, with Jesus keeping vigil the whole time as Val slept. By the end of the 2nd day, Jesus began to nod off, and Val knew it was her only chance to sneak away into the cave in search of Andrew and possibly Jean. Jesus awoke with the sun enveloping him in warmth. He looked around frantically for Val, finding her nowhere in sight. What he did find, beside the boot prints of Andrew from days previous, was another set of footprints, the palm tree pattern of the flip-flop's sole filling him with sorrow as he realized Val had ventured into the cave. Jesus arrived home and fell onto the couch, crying. He hadn't stopped crying since he first began his journey back here, the loss of the love of his life greater than he could bear. 25 years later. The mouth of the cave was bathed in the shadows of pre-dawn when there was a shuffling echo from within and Jean emerged, followed by Andrew, Val, and a middle-aged woman. They stopped as they emerged, the middle-aged woman looking up at the sky, eyes brimming with tears. Life had been great for the past 25 years with her new friends, and now the time was coming to an end. Ella que no tiene amigos, or Maria, as it turns out, had been persuaded by her new friends to let them leave in peace. The time they had shared was almost magical, and Maria didn't want it to end, but after Val suggested something, Maria's eyes lit up. The group walked towards the rear of the condo building, it remaining the same as the day they had first set out, but now there were many more buildings nearby, all appearing to be occupied. Andrew and Jean climbed the short concrete wall and ran for the elevator, followed more slowly by Val and Maria, who needed some help climbing over the wall. They rode upward in silence and walked towards their respective condos, all seeming as if they were left just for them to find upon their return. Val and Maria bade Andrew and Jean farewell as they split off, Val's condo just beyond the others. A man was sitting with his head down in the chairs that sat just outside the front door, having a smoke. He looked up with disbelief as Val came into view, and he rushed towards her, sobbing. "Mom, is that really you?" Val looked at her son, also sobbing.
Yes, sweetie, it's me. Everything's going to be okay. Have you met my new friend Maria?
Val's son, Roberto, looked Maria up and down, and then rushed to embrace her. Maria was taken aback by the surge of affection. "Thank you for keeping my mom safe," he said, letting Maria go. Jesus explained what happened to me, and I couldn't believe it until now. Val's eyes filled with pain as she remembered Jesus, and then asked what happened to him. "I don't know. I haven't seen him for about 10 years, Roberto replied. The 3 of them drove down the street in Roberto's car, with Maria riding shotgun. She was marveling at all the sights, and couldn't stop asking what this car was. After all, it had been centuries since she had last been in any civilization, so everything was fantastical to her. Roberta looked in the rearview mirror at Val, who had a smile on her face, but her eyes were still dark with worry for Jesus. They pulled up in front of a huge, luxurious house and Val's jaw dropped.
He lives here?
Yep, if he still lives here. Val was out of the car first, running to the door and ringing the bell. An old man answered the door, confusion in his face.
Yes?
He asked in a raspy voice.
Are you Jesus?
Asked Val.
Yes. Who? Val?
Val was crying tears of joy as she embraced him, and that was when he smiled.
Welcome home.
His words trailed off as his eyes widened and he fell to the ground.
I can help him,
said Maria. She placed her hands on either side of his face and he came to, looking in her eyes.
Who are you?
Your friend Maria. You don't need to worry. Everything is going to be alright from now on.
Jesus' eyes narrowed and Val cut in.
It turns out that ella que no tienes amigos is the best friend of all of us.
A tear rolled down Jesus' cheek as he realized that everything would be alright from then on, that Val would be safe and find happiness. Jesus smiled as the light of the world faded, replaced by a light at the end of the tunnel.